Live from the internet, it's If You Have to Pick Three. I'm Matt.
And I'm Zach.
Yes, that was the most energetic I could possibly be. What's going on, everyone? You click the picture, you click the link. This is going to be a very interesting episode. It's all about the Muppets.
That's right. You know why it's all about the Muppets? Because guess what? Finally, all 5 seasons of the original Muppet Show are on Disney Plus. That's my impersonation of Kermit in the intro going.
Anyway.
But in all seriousness, though, I literally have been ecstatic ever since Disney announced that all 5 of the original seasons were going to be on Disney Plus, because I grew up with the Muppets. I absolutely love them so much. I'm literally
you're drinking. I was going to say you're drinking out of a Kermit mug.
As we are recording right now, I am drinking out of a Kermit coffee mug that I drink out of every day. And not to necessarily spoil what I'm about to say later on in this episode, but without the Muppets, I would not have discovered one of my all-time favorite artists. A little sneak peek there, who pretty much was a gateway for me to discovering a lot of other different music. But we bring it up because music has always been a huge part of the Muppet Show, but also part of the Muppet movies, the TV spin-offs, the specials that they've done. Literally, music has always been a part of the show. And because of that, a lot of our favorite musicians and influential artists have appeared on the show, have done duets with the Muppets themselves, have done performances. So we thought to celebrate the fact that the Muppet Show has come to streaming platforms all around the world, we were going to name the best Muppets musical moments, primarily focusing on artist collaborations and appearances. But you know what? Before we proceed, I wanted to take a moment to give a special shout out to Lucky 13 Beard Company. They produce made-to-order beard oils and balms right in our home state of New Jersey. And Matt and I really could not be more honored to be sponsored by them.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, if you've seen a few of our videos, if you know Zach and I mean, you really couldn't imagine us without a beard. I don't think I'd be married if I didn't have a beard. And that's 100% fact, because my wife constantly tells me if I shave, she's going to divorce me. So, I mean, I can attest to how much beard oils and balms actually play into like my daily routines. My face, it just doesn't feel right without them on it anymore. And I've tried literally everything under the sun. And I swear to you that the Lucky 13 Bear Company and their products, they make my beard feel the best that it's really ever felt. They've got such a wide range of unique scents too. And that's another reason why I like them so much, because, you get the big box stuff and everybody smells the same. Everybody, they got the same thing. You want to stand out a little bit. So from lavender to sandalwood, and my personal favorites, tobacco vanilla. Love the smell of that one. And I haven't got my hands on it yet, but they just put out a brand new cherry cola flavor. And with them being made in small batches, and right when you order them, you can rest assured that you're really getting the best quality products. They're not just sitting on a shelf somewhere, and they're going to be delivered directly to your door. So you're going to get them really fast, really, really fresh. And I think that's why it makes my beard feel the best that it absolutely can.
And, this is really exciting too. If you head over right now to etsy.com/shop/Lucky13BeardCo and use the code EFP10, you will receive 10% off of your order. Yeah, 10% off that order. So guys, treat yourself to a better, more luxurious beard. And ladies, treat that special bearded someone in your life to a gift you'll end up appreciating just as much as they will. In fact, I can attest that my wife is actually really excited to give the cherry cola one a smell. So again, head over to etsy.com/shop/Lucky13BeardCo right now and use the code EFP10 to receive 10% off of your order. And I think it's rather fitting that we're going from our own furry faces to the furry faces of Muppet characters.
You've been storing that up for so long, haven't you?
So excited to make that transition in my life. I'm also just so excited to talk about the Muppets. Matt, I know you're kind of dreading this. I don't care, though. You're coming along for the ride. Buckle up, buddy. It's about to get weird.
I don't want to.
It's time to get things started. It's time to dress the lights on the Muppet Show tonight. So excited. Waka waka.
So do you want to go first since you're this excited?
Yes.
All right, have at it.
Okay, let's first start off with the appearance that I teased toward the beginning of this episode. I am talking about, of course, and we've actually talked about this in a past If You Have to Pick Three episode when we talked about artists that we never want to see retire. I still vividly remember the first time when I was a very young man, well, young kid, I should say, not young man, but young kid, watching reruns of the Muppets and suddenly seeing Alice Cooper on the Muppet Show. Not to get too personal or too sappy, but as a kid, I had a bit of a speech impediment. I didn't really feel like I could really relate to a lot of other kids or even talk to them. For whatever reason, I always felt part of the crew when watching the Muppets, or always felt welcomed while watching the Muppets. And sounds really silly, but actually, so sidetrack, if you watch the more recent Muppet movie, not the latest, but the recent Muppet movie with Jason Segel, the first 5 minutes of that movie with Walton, with the new Muppet character, or the newish Muppet character, really just sums up how I personally feel about the Muppets. Sorry, I know that sounds like a sidetrack, but the reason why I'm explaining all that and making you all emotional is because suddenly Alice Cooper appears, and I'm seeing him perform Welcome to My Nightmare, and talking to Kermit about trying to have Kermit sell his soul to the devil, and then performing Schools Out with the larger Muppet characters. And I'm just staring in amazement because I'm going, oh my God, it's a human Muppet. They do exist. And it just gave me so much excitement. And from there, I went on to discover Alice Cooper's actual back catalog. And I've been a huge Alice Cooper fan ever since. So if it wasn't for Alice Cooper appearing on the Muppets, I don't think I would have been able to shape my musical tastes the way they are today. At the time, I've listened to whatever my parents had listened to, but this is the first time I discovered an artist, which is weird that a kid in the 90s discovered a 70s artist via a 70s show, but c'est la vie, right? And also, keep in mind, this was extremely shocking to have Alice Cooper on the Muppets. It's kind of like if Marilyn Manson appeared on the Teletubbies in the late 90s, early 2000s. Like,
That's
Alice Cooper
extreme.
was... No, it absolutely was. I mean, granted, yeah, Muppets always kind of cater to a little bit of an adult audience, but it literally was like seeing Alice Cooper. It was seeing that kind of shock rocker who really didn't belong on a set with puppets. Suddenly he's there and he played along. And he even said in interviews how at first he loved the show, but it's like, oh, this is going to hurt my reputation. And then he realized, oh, wait, Vincent Price was on the show. I'm totally doing it now. Let's do it. Actually, and not to flaunt, over this past summer, I got to participate in a virtual town hall that Alice Cooper did with Eddie Trunk on Sirius XM. And I got to actually ask him whether he felt that the Muppets or Wayne's World opened him up to a larger audience. Because if you all recall, he appeared famously in Wayne's World, the movie. And
We're not worthy.
Yeah, that famous scene. And it was so interesting to hear him acknowledge that while Wayne's World actually introduced him to a younger audience, Muppets introduced him to a larger, more vast audience, which I think speaks to the power of the Muppets in that it really was an all-ages show. Like I said, I can literally talk about the Muppets and Alice Cooper for hours. I digress. Alice Cooper, my first pick. Pick number 2. I'm also going to go with a other moment from the Muppet Show, specifically. Because again, to remind everyone, we can be picking moments that were either in the movies, that were in the TV spin-offs or the TV one-off specials, or the actual Muppet Show from the 70s. I'm going to go with another one from that same season, season 3, 1978. And I'm talking about when Harry Belafonte hosted the Muppet Show. And I picked that out because not only was there the incredibly fun moment of Harry Belafonte, who was such a worldly, well-respected artist, not even just musician, but artist, performing on the Muppets and kind of being out of character, but then also doing a drum solo with Animal, which is so cool. But then there was also the incredible musical moment, Turn the World Around. I was reading recently how Harry Belafonte was really involved in the script of the show, which is really unusual. Normally it would just be the guest comes and they tell them what they want them to do with the Muppets. But Harry Belafonte was really hands-on. It was really interesting how both Jim Henson and Harry Belafonte really made sure to pay attention to the detail of the masks that a lot of the puppets were wearing during the number Turn the World Around, which was based on an African song. And it was really a beautiful representation of a different culture that for many people, including myself at a young age, it was the first time we really got to see that. And it was just so beautifully presented and authentic. By the time you're listening to this, you're probably aware that There's a little bit of controversy where 18 of the episodes that are appearing on Disney Plus have a little warning disclaimer explaining how, some of these remarks are sort of racist or doesn't really represent cultures where it hasn't aged well. And part of the reason why seeing those disclaimers was a little shocking is not that it was made in the 70s. Of course, there's stuff that hasn't aged well in the show. But I think what was so shocking about that initially is because Muppets were so well representative of other cultures and races. And so it was a little surprising. And I think the Harry Belafonte episode, and specifically the Turn the World Around musical moment, really a great representation of how inclusive the Muppets were. Actually, Harry Belafonte even performed Turn the World Around at Jim Henson's funeral a few years later. So that's number 2. Number 3, and this is where I'm a little stuck. I want to name a million different appearances and performances, and it's tough because if you ask me a week after we record this what my third pick would be, I'd probably change my answer. But I'm going to most likely go with Paul Williams, and kind of a combination of two things he did. First was hosting an episode during the first season of The Muppet Show, which had some fun musical moments with him. And it was also kind of an exciting period because he wasn't necessarily extremely known for being in front of the screen. He was usually behind the scenes writing songs for other people or performing theme songs, or you didn't typically see Paul Williams at that point. But then also tied with, he is actually responsible for a lot of incredible musical moments for the Muppets throughout their career. He wrote a lot of songs that have become staples in Muppet history, most notably Rainbow Connection, which premiered in the Muppet movie in the late 70s. So I think you have to give a shout out to Paul Williams, who really, out of all the musicians who've crossed the stage or have performed in the Muppets in one way or another, he really was probably the most collaborative with Jim Henson and the whole Muppet universe. So to recap, I realized I was very wrong. I warned you all that I could go on and on and on and on and on about the Muppets. But Alice Cooper appearing on the Muppet Show in 1978, Harry Belafonte appearing on the show in 1978, and Paul Williams both appearing on the show, but also writing many of the great Muppet songs like Rainbow Connection. And it's tough because I literally want to give so many million honorable mentions, but I'll save the honorable mentions until you share your 3.
You done now?
Let me explain a little bit more about. No, I'm kidding. I told you I really am passionate about the Muppets.
I can see that.
I earned this Kermit mug, damn it.
Well, I can definitely tell you that I am not going to go anywhere near as long as you.
Listen, it's not 2 minutes to review. I can go as long as I want.
Well, I can say that I've watched the Muppets. I'm not going to deny that I am nowhere near as big of a fan as you are. But, there are certain moments that do stick out in my mind. First and foremost, it's actually going to be, I think, maybe a little bit weird because of who it is. It is Buddy Rich. Now, if you've never heard of Buddy Rich, he's a jazz drummer. Your face is like, wait, what?
No. I'm nodding. You made it sound like it was going to be so weird. And I was actually contemplating putting it on my list too, but please continue.
So Buddy Rich, jazz drummer. He was a band leader for a while. He passed away in 87, but in 81, I believe he was on the last episode of the original series. Zach, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure you will.
One of the last episodes.
Yeah.
So, you knew I was going to correct you. It was the last season. It was toward the end of this. Sorry, continue.
That's okay. So the reason why I'm putting him on this list is I did watch part of the episode where he was in, and just to watch somebody drum across an entire set in perfect rhythm with nothing else backing him up, like no music, no nothing, just drumming on props and Muppets, and then seeing the drum segment with Animal and actually him beating Animal. Normally, Animal gets like the last laugh on everything when it comes to drumming, including with Dave Grohl. So he, normally is, he's the drummer for the show, but he put him to shame, and Animal actually threw a drum at him at the end of this segment, which I thought was kind of funny. So just to see him best Animal in a drum off, that says a lot. So we're gonna put that at number 1.
That's a good pick.
No particular order on this, just it's the first pick. Number 2, this one is the most controversial because this is not a person who's normally a musician. Yes, he does play an instrument. but in no way, shape, or form is Steve Martin actually a musician. But he does play the banjo, does play it pretty good. And
he's released a few bluegrass albums, so I'll give you this.
If you ask the casual person, Steve Martin, I would picture him in one of two ways. I'd picture him either as one of the Three Amigos, or I'd picture him with the arrow through the head and the banjo. So yeah, he was on the Muppet Show a lot. He did stuff in the Muppet movie. But one of the most iconic moments, I think, for him being on the Muppets was when he did the dueling banjo segment. And even in 2003 or 2013, there was a Funny or Die episode where him and Kermit redid the dueling banjo segment. And it was actually funny because it was a little bit off kilter for Kermit. I thought it was just really funny the way that they redid it. And then to go back and watch the original really shows kind of how that segment is kind of aged. So that is number 2, Mr. Steve Martin. And number 3, when I think of the Muppets and I think of people who've performed, for you, it's Alice Cooper. Mm-hmm. For me, even before going back and doing some research for this episode, the one person who I knew hands down was on this was Elton John.
Yeah.
For me, Elton John, I think, is probably one of the best picks that you could pick to be on the Muppet Show. The Muppets they're bright and they're colorful, and who better to do it than Elton John? But what was interesting about this was Elton John, at the time that the show was being shot, was kind of done with the big flamboyant costumes, and somehow they convinced him to do it, I guess, one more time. No Daft Punk pun intended, but they got him to dress up in the costume one more time, and he did some of his most iconic performances or pieces on the Muppet Show in very unique ways. And I think they were done magnificently. He did Crocodile Rock, which was backed by some Muppet crocodiles. He did an iconic duet with Miss Piggy with Don't Go Breaking My Heart. I just think, once again, if you had to pick somebody from that era that could just come in and look like a Muppet himself, for me, it's Elton John. For you, it was Alice Cooper. So there you go. That's my 3. Buddy Rich, Steve Martin, Elton John, my 3 picks.
I will also say about Elton John, before they had a lot of incredible guest stars that ranged different ages and time periods, but he really was the first pop music star that was like relevant at that time to appear on the show. It really was a big deal when Elton John appeared on the Muppets. And you're right, he looked like he belonged right there. The Crocodile Rock bit alone is just classic, with the crocodiles singing along with it. I also, to speak a little bit more on your picks and to rave about them, I mean, and you look at Buddy Rich and Steve Martin, it's great examples. Like with Buddy Rich, the Muppets did a great job at capturing what musicians and artists did best. They really captured their strengths and let them go wild with their strengths on the show. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you had guest stars like Steve Martin flex new muscles that you're not really familiar with, that literally let them showcase their other talents. So it was really, I think those are really good examples of just how they had their guests really play to their strengths and also new talents. And like it really helped people discover more about said guest. Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, there were a bunch of segments that I watched. One of them was kind of creepy when I was watching.
There was a lot of creepy moments.
Oh, no. This is like creepy to another level.
Which one?
Johnny Cash. I don't know why. I found that extremely creepy. Because there's a lot of names that have been on the Muppets. When I don't know everybody like you do who's been on the Muppets, but when I saw like a list of like Johnny Cash is on there, Prince has been on with them, I immediately went to try to find these because for me, and this is going to go off on a tangent in a different way, but Prince doing the Super Bowl was one of my favorite halftime shows ever. So I was really curious to see what he did in terms of the Muppets. It didn't wow me, but he did it. Well, Johnny Cash, just watching the segment that he was doing with Miss Piggy, I think it was Jackson that he did with her. Just the looks that he gave the camera and the way that he looked it just struck me as really creepy. So, because I love Johnny Cash, and I was, I'm like, yeah, this is definitely going to be on my list until I saw that.
Some people were better than others. I'm glad that you mentioned Prince, though, because I was really toying with putting that on my 3 list, mainly because, in case for all of my fellow Muppet nerds who are keeping track, we really did focus on the late 70s, early 80s appearances of the Muppets, or collaborations, I should say. For those who aren't familiar, Prince actually appeared on a revival show of the Muppets called Muppets Tonight that aired in 96 and 97. First season was on ABC, but then it got moved to Disney Channel during the second season. And Prince was the guest on the first episode of the second season. Keep in mind, this is Prince in 1997, at the height of Prince being literally in his own little world. He started to be less communicative, less normal. I mean, he was still going by the artist formerly known as Prince at that point.
I thought that's when he transitioned to that unnamed symbol.
Yes, well, that the artist formerly known as Prince.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay.
And then you watch the clips from that appearance, and it's almost like hard to believe that's Prince. He's actually having fun playing with the Muppets, talking to the Muppets, and performing. So I think his appearance in the late 90s on the spin-off show is really a testament to how throughout the past nearly 5 decades, the Muppets have still been able to get some of your favorite musicians in on the fun. And I think even you mentioned about Dave Grohl when he appeared on the more recent Muppet primetime show that aired a few years ago. Again, it speaks to the power of how beloved they are and how they let their artists do what they want and let them in on the fun. And Jack White, someone who literally doesn't really like being on TV or doing stuff, he not only appeared on that Muppet series show, but he even recorded a song on the Muppets and released it on vinyl. So it speaks to the staying power of the Muppets. Sorry, I know I went on another tangent again, but it's the Muppets.
That's okay. You love the Muppets.
I do.
In case anybody didn't know by now.
I like them. No, I really do. So yeah, I think I'm glad you brought up Prince, because I was really on the edge of putting that in just for the specialness of him appearing on any show with Muppets. Okay, so the recap real quick. My list was Alice Cooper on the Muppet Show, Harry Belafonte on the Muppet Show, Paul Williams on the Muppet Show, and also co-writing songs like Rainbow Connection. And you had Buddy Rich, Steve Martin, and Elton John. I would like to make a famous Zach compromise.
As long as it doesn't include Alice Cooper.
No. Absolutely Alice. You go to hell, it's including Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper, Elton John, and then I'm going to propose a tie.
Interesting.
I'm going to propose a tie between Harry Belafonte and Buddy Rich. And here's why. The Harry Belafonte episode is, I spoke to this before, but it really is one of those standout episodes that just the word special gets thrown around a lot, but it really was a special episode and moment. Going back to the idea also where, this was outside of Harry Belafonte's, spectrum of what he would typically do. He's a very serious artist. And then for him to incorporate a lot of different cultures and just ethnicities into the show. And he really helped introduce young people into a different part of the world. So I think it's important. And then with Buddy Rich, what was so special about the Muppets too is that they really put a spotlight on musicians who normally wouldn't appear in front of kids. And Buddy Rich is a great example of that. He's such an acclaimed, beloved, respected, influential artist. But can you imagine a 7-year-old or anyone below the age of 10 discovering Buddy Rich without being forced to listen to him by your parents? Parents didn't have to do it. Muppets did it for them. I mean, you think also artists like Dizzy Gillespie, who I was also close to putting on my 3 list. I would never have even given a thought to listen to Dizzy Gillespie if it wasn't for seeing him on the Muppets. And sure enough, it opened up my eyes to how incredible he was, and same old Buddy Rich, and how incredible that they were to their instruments. And they did it in a fun, playful way. So I would say a tie between Harry Belafonte and Buddy Rich. Thoughts?
Well, you're the Muppet expert.
So then I guess it's final.
Yeah, you're the Muppet expert. There's no way I'm going to get Alice Cooper off of this list, so I'm not going to try.
Wait, are you really going to fight for Alice to get Alice Cooper off the list? No, hold on. You were
troll alert.
Oh,
Troll alert.
No, screw you.
I know.
Screw you.
Hold on a second. I have to explain this to everybody because nobody else has seen this but me. You have a T-shirt of Alice Cooper's eyes, and doesn't it say like it's not easy being green underneath?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Okay. So,
and because you know the story behind that?
No.
Well, first off, it was a gift from an ex-girlfriend. Sorry, Jen, my wife. She's okay with it. But the reason why, because I'm Jewish, and I know it's a no-no to get a tattoo in Jewish culture. However, I always said that if I could get a tattoo, it would be the Alice Cooper eyes with "It's not easy being green underneath." And it's because how much I related to Alice Cooper's it's hard, weird to say I relate to Alice Cooper, but how much I love Alice Cooper and the Muppets and how they really were there for me when I was at a young age. And I can take a whole other half an hour explaining further about that. But so because I knew I was never going to get a tattoo, an ex-girlfriend for a birthday got that shirt for me. It doesn't fit me anymore because I got big.
COVID issues, but
thank you for trying to be nice, but
we'll call it COVID issues.
COVID.
For me to try to remove Alice Cooper off of this list,
why would you want to?
Because I'm just busting your balls. I don't want to remove him from this list. I saw the performance. I know how good he was.
It was phenomenal. It's one of the best episodes. I'm standing by it. It's one of the best episodes.
Okay. But like I said, for me to try to get that off this list, that's never going to happen. So I figured I'd have a little fun with you. And so I knew that was going to be on your list from the start. As soon as I saw the T-shirt and I saw you when we first met and I saw you with the Kermit mug, I knew you loved the Muppets. I know this about you already. I know how much you love Alice Cooper. I know how much you love them. Put them together. Yeah, it's going to be on this list. That was a no-brainer. So I think we're good with the list.
Yeah. And I agree also. The Elton John episode is just a classic, perfect from start to finish too. So then to recap, we've got Alice Cooper's appearance on The Muppet Show, Elton John's appearance on The Muppet Show, and then tied for third place, or out of order, but tied, Harry Belafonte and Buddy Rich's appearances on The Muppet Show separately. Do you agree? Are you yelling from the balcony while listening to this and telling us, "Boo, you stink"? Let us know what you think on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Epic Footnote. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube page for more content as well. Thanks so much for listening and taking a break from watching The Muppets on Disney Plus like I did to record this. And once again, special shout out to Lucky 13 Beard Company. As we mentioned, they produce incredible made to order beard oils and balms right here in New Jersey. And Matt and I really just are so honored to be sponsored by them.
Don't forget right now, if you head on over to their shop at etsy.com/shop/Lucky13Beard Co. and use the code EFP10, you're going to receive 10% off of your order today. Etsy.com/shop/Lucky13, Beard Co. and use the code EFP10 and receive 10% off of your order.
And we really hope that you listen to another episode really soon.
See ya.